Welcome back to another episode of the F1 2021 My Team series for the Japanese Grand Prix. I don't know why I elongated that intro so much, but here we are anyway. We are at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Last time out we were at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, and just look at how many upgrades we've had. I showed this at the end of the last episode. Every single upgrade passed through. None of them failed, they all completed. Absolutely mental. And that was what, like 8, 9 upgrades? Something like that. Absolutely ridiculous. So our car should be slightly better for this Grand Prix, but you never know. Obviously it won't be, we won't suddenly be fighting in the midfield out of nowhere, but we've hopefully now pulled away from Haas and Williams, because we were down there with Haas and Williams. Alfa Romeo had pulled up into the midfield and we were kind of just left to fight with those two at the back. But now we have sort of pulled away from them a little bit, but not too much. We're kind of in a bit of no man's land between Alfa Romeo and Haas now, but we're definitely further away from those bottom two, that is for sure. But we're already heading into qualifying here, as you can see. Very quick intros as always, because we do everything after the Grand Prix instead of before it. But as you can see from the overhead shots there, it's wet. We're in for a wet qualifying here at Suzuka. So, more bad weather again. We've had so much bad weather recently in these races, it's been ridiculous. But here we are at the Suzuka circuit, of course, another track I'm yet to drive on this year's game, and also just on YouTube in general, because as I've said many times, this is the furthest I've ever made it in an F1 career mode, and I don't intend to stop anytime soon. Which hopefully you guys are still liking this series. I seem to get still quite a bit of support from this series, so I'm not going to stop anytime soon, although the release of FIFA 22 coming up might sort of complicate things slightly, but I don't know, we'll see how that comes about. Anyway, we're going through an entire lap of Suzuka here, because for the first time in a very long time, I actually managed to do a lap of a track without having to flashback at all, because I wasn't pushing too hard. And we're in the wet as well. Me and the wet conditions do not go together. That may seem a little bit contradictory considering the kinds of results and drives we've had in the wet so far in this series, but trust me, I hate the wet conditions with a passion. I can barely drive in them. So the fact that we've managed to do an entire lap around a track in qualifying, full throttle, full pelt, without having to flashback is pretty impressive. So I'm just going to let the rest of this lap run, and I'm just going to talk over it. Around 130R we go, probably one of the best corners on the calendar. As we come to the chicane at the end of the lap, we take that pretty nicely, take both inside curbs, lovely, rest on the curb coming out of the chicane, and round the final corner we go, and it is a 1:38.4, putting us in P8 currently, and we go for another lap straight away because we're on the intermediate tyres, which we're now coming up to the end of, and we are going quicker on this lap, 6/10 quicker in fact. The tyres have done their job here. It's exactly what I wanted. It's down to 5/10. We lost about half a tenth through that final corner, but we've managed to overtake our teammate Yuki Tsunoda and go up into P9 for the time being. We don't know whether we're through to Q2 yet. We'll have to wait and see. And as we come to the end of our final flying lap in Q1, we're actually in P14, so it looks like we're going to make it through to Q2 without any sort of fuss. We've gained about 2/10 from our previous lap, and as we cross the line, we have made it just about into Q2, P16 right on the edge, but we've made it in the wet conditions, and it's a while since we were last in Q2. Unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda couldn't make it. He finished in P18 in qualifying, so he has been knocked out in Q1. And yeah, let's press on forward with Q2. It's a while since we've been here, isn't it? That is for sure. As we come up towards the end of our first flying lap, heading towards 130R, it's wet, it's intermediate conditions all the way through qualifying. So, it's going to be wet all the way through. We go a little bit wide at 130R. There's a yellow flag on half the track, apparently. I don't know what happened there, but there was a random yellow flag out of nowhere that took up almost the entire track, but not quite the entire track. Anyway, we come across the line for a 1:37.7. It's the slowest of everyone at the moment, but we've got many more laps to do on these tyres, but we've also got to be careful because there actually is some rain forecast for the race, so we can't be going and using too many sets of inters, because otherwise we're going to have no fresh inters for the race, which, you know, if we don't have any fresh enters to the race, we are really going to struggle once it gets to that wet period. If it gets to that wet period, that is, because we don't actually know when the rain is coming in the race yet, but we do know that it is coming, that is for sure. As we come across the line and we go 5/10 quicker than our previous time, but we're still in last place out of everyone right now. Only 86 milliseconds behind Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, so not too bad. But as we're going to go for a third lap then on these inters, because why not? We don't want to use any more inters than we possibly can. As we're going through the S's now, we've actually, you know, I've actually nailed the S's almost every time so far. But as we get on the inside curb, we spin it off the track. Back on again maybe. No, we're in the gravel. We're in the gravel. Luckily, it's easy to get out of the gravel in this game, but we have ruined these intermediate tyres, and that is going to be it, unfortunately, for our qualifying session. We will be starting P16. So, yeah, let's go to race day and let's go to the grid.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issa Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? We're southwest of the city of Nagoya today at a wet and windy Suzuka circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 corners make up a lap here, with Sector 1 likely to prove especially difficult in these conditions. We should see overtaking into turns 1 and 16 today, and maybe a few Kobayashi-style dives into the hairpin as well. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, George Russell and Gasly, Raikkonen, Lawrence, Leclerc and Antonio Giovinazzi, Sainz, Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, and Ocon, Vettel, Stroll, Robert Schwartzman and Mick Schumacher. Fernando Alonso, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Latifi, Mazepin and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So how's that for a turn up for the books then? We are starting in P8, 8 positions higher than we qualified due to so many drivers having grid penalties. And not only that, Yuki Tsunoda starts in P12, which is 6 places higher than he qualified. So suddenly, out of nowhere, we could be on course to get points here as we go to 5 red lights for the Japanese Grand Prix. When they go out, we will be racing around Suzuka, lights out, and we're underway, and it's an okay start. We're on the intermediates. The rain is at the start of the race and not at the end, so we're starting wet and going to dry as we've already been overtaken by Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. As we go to the S section now, it's Leclerc. Raikkonen is in P7. Don't forget, Alfa Romeo have no points at all in this season so far. We're trying to stay ahead of them, and we've got Raikkonen running in P7, Giovinazzi just outside the points in P11, so the fact that we're in P9 at the moment is crucial because we do not want Alfa Romeo catching us up as we head to the 2 Degner corners, and we remain behind Charles Leclerc for the time being. But are we going to have a run on him into the hairpin? Are we going to have a dive? Yes, we are, into the hairpin. It's a brilliant dive down the inside of Charles Leclerc, and now he's alongside his teammate as well, but they've both got better traction off the corner, and suddenly it's going 3 wide up towards Spoon. Leclerc has just driven straight into me, forced me and Sainz off the track. We've come back on the track and we forced Ricciardo off the track, and now just like that we're down to P13. Leclerc, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing? We've now got Ricciardo overtaking us as well. We're down to P14. Our great starting position of P8 has suddenly just massively come undone because Charles Leclerc has just simply driven into us. I don't know what he's doing as we dive down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo into the chicane, back up into P13 for the time being. But Leclerc, what on earth was he doing here? As we now have a look at a replay of this incident, we're going 3 wide up towards Spoon, and as you can see, we go off onto the grass. Carlos Sainz goes off onto the gravel. We then come back on the track. I didn't see Daniel Ricciardo there. We bang wheels as I force him off the track, unfortunately for him. And yeah, then Ricciardo just goes and overtakes me up towards 130R. And that was all caused by Charles Leclerc, who is the one person who's got away from that scot-free. As we go on board with the Ferrari driver, we go down the inside of him at the hairpin. As you can see, that was a fair and square move. We're now ahead of him, but he's got his teammate alongside, suddenly decides to go alongside me, and then turns left. He turns left. He turns left into me. Like, what is he doing? And this is on board with the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Look what happens here. Leclerc turns into us, which in turn makes me turn into Carlos, and he goes into the gravel and drops all the way down to last place. And he is the innocent bystander in this. It's all Leclerc's fault. He's turned into me, which in turn has turned me into his teammate. And Carlos Sainz has just massively lost out because of his teammate doing that. And that's Sebastian Vettel, who was just an unfortunate person in all of that. He hit the back of Ricciardo as Ricciardo was returning to the track. And so he had to pit for a new front wing. And meanwhile, on to lap 4, and we've done the exact same move on Lance Stroll. We're fighting our way back through the pack here. What's funny is I've been moaning constantly that our car has like no downforce, and that, you know, we're better when it's, you know, there's less turns, it's a power circuit and all that sort of stuff. Here, we've gained everything through the S's. The biggest downforce bit of the circuit, we've gained everything through the S's. And on the straights, we're getting caught every time. So, I mean, I don't know what is going on. It's like our car is the exact opposite to what it's supposed to be in this Grand Prix at the moment. But we've managed to get up into P12 past Lance Stroll. And like I say, we're on a charge back through to get back into our original position. And if anything, try and get revenge on Charles Leclerc if possible. And 4 laps later, we are closing up to Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Surely we're not going to make the same move for a 3rd time. We've already done it on Leclerc. We've already done it on Stroll. Are we about to do it on Esteban Ocon? It's a very, very long way back. That was a very, very risky move to do. We could have damaged anything there, but we've got past the Alpine and we're up into P11. And next up is my teammate Yuki Tsunoda. He's currently running in the points after mine and Daniel Ricciardo's misfortune, mine and Carlos Sainz's misfortune. After both of us dropped out of the points, Yuki Tsunoda has profited and he's now running in the points. And this is just 1 lap later. We're already pretty damn close to Yuki Tsunoda, and not far up the road as well is Antonio Giovinazzi. And of course, don't forget, now me and Tsunoda are running P10 and P11, so we will get 1 point currently as a constructor. Giovinazzi's currently running in 9th, and Kimi Raikkonen is currently running in 7th, which will give them 8 points. Now, at the moment, that means that after this race, we would have 10 points, and Alfa Romeo would have 8. At the moment, Alfa Romeo have none, and we have 9, so suddenly, out of nowhere, we'd be massively under threat from Alfa Romeo. As we do the same move again into the hairpin on our teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who's actually coming back at us here. He's going to try and overtake us into Spoon, is he? No, he's got to pull out on this occasion, and we have swapped the cars around. We are back up into the points, and now it is time to chase after the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi. And it's taken 2 laps, but we're now pretty close to Giovinazzi. Are we going to dive bomb it up the inside of the hairpin again? Yes, we are. We bang wheels, and Giovinazzi is now behind us. But he's now got a good run out of the hairpin. He's going to try and get back at us into Spoon, possibly. Look at the speed he's got. He's coming round the outside of Spoon. He's going to try what Sebastian Vettel did against Max Verstappen, and the same outcome has happened as well. Giovinazzi spun. All the way back in 2018, Sebastian Vettel tried a similar move on Max Verstappen and spun round, and the same thing has now happened to Antonio Giovinazzi in this race. And as we look at it on board from Yuki Tsunoda, Giovinazzi went into a space, like, he gave me no room. I'd gone wide off the track, and Giovinazzi just didn't let me come back on. He hit my side pod and lost the car. And he's now out of the points again. And just like in the Netherlands, we've clashed again with Antonio Giovinazzi, and Giovinazzi is the one that's come off worse. As we now see Lewis Hamilton coming into the pits, and some other cars are also going to follow him in as well, and he's putting on another set of intermediate tyres. Now, I was unsure how long this rain was going to last for, so pitting onto another set of inters, yes, very, very good. However, I'm going to risk it. I am going to say that, you know what, I'm going to try and go as far as I can on my current set of inters and just hope that it actually gets dry, and then I just do one stop onto a set of probably soft tyres at this point. We've only got 10 laps of the Grand Prix left, and so after all these guys are pit, we're now up into P5 in this race, behind the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Red Bulls, and ahead of the 2 Alpha Tauris. And as we head on to lap 21, which is 6 laps later, as you can see, the Alpha Tauris have now caught up to me, and in fact George Russell has overtaken me for 5th place. It's now time for us to box. I've been asking Jeff for the weather report this whole time, and Jeff says we're now right on the crossover. So I thought, I've got nothing to lose at this point. I'm in P5. I come out of the pits, I'm probably going to be in P9, which is where I was before everyone pit. So now we are going to go onto a set of soft tyres. Yes, that is correct. And we're going to see if we have made the right strategy call or not. If we have, it's a stroke of genius from us here. A stroke of genius of a strategy call. And now on to lap 23, which is a lap after I came out of the pits. Still no one is coming to the pits yet. There are some cars coming in now. There's an Alpine in the pits, a Williams and a Haas in the pits. They've managed to get there before the front runners. And look at the time that we're gaining on our teammate. He's on old intermediate tyres. I'm on fresh soft tyres. Look at the difference in speed as we go down the inside at Degner 1, and we've set the fastest Sector 1 of anyone in the race so far. And look who's up ahead. Look who is up ahead. The man who looked to have ruined our race on lap 1 is still stuck behind Kimi Räikkönen. I don't know if Leclerc suffered floor damage or barge board damage or something, but he has been stuck behind the Alfa Romeo for the entire race, and we are now catching them both at a rate of knots as we go around Spoon Curve here. Look at the time we've gained on them. We're less than half a second behind them now. Up the straight to 130R. What's the time going to be? It's a purple Sector 2 as well. We're about to set the fastest lap of the race here as we go down the inside of Charles Leclerc at this chicane. It probably means nothing as he's now going to come in and box, as is Kimi Räikkönen. We have to do a bit of an avoidance there as he slowed down to come into the pits, but we're up into P7. We set the fastest lap of the race. Russell's in the pits. We're going to come out ahead of George Russell, who got ahead of us just as we pit, and now the only cars left ahead of us are the 2 Mercedes, the 2 Red Bulls, and Pierre Gasly, who is yet to pit off his intermediate tyres. So we were in P5 without making a stop, and we are going to end up in P5 after everyone else has made their stop. We started this race in P8, we dropped to P14 on lap 1. Bottas has also got an issue with his car. We're setting purple sectors every single sector. This has absolutely come up Millhouse for us in this race. Everything has come up Lozzer Racing, everything has come up me, and everything has also come up Yuki Tsunoda, as after he's pit, he's also emerged in the points as well. But it's not over yet as George Russell's caught us at a rate of knots, and on to the penultimate lap. He's going to have a go down the inside of turn 1 maybe. Russell's up into 5th place, but he's lost it. He's lost it on the curb. George Russell spun round in his Alpha Tauri, and he's lost the position. He might lose more positions yet as well, as his teammate Pierre Gasly goes past him, whilst George Russell is trying to reverse back onto the track here. We have taken P5, and George Russell has lost it, trying to overtake us to reclaim his P5, what would have been his second P5 in a row, and that is it for us. As George Russell goes into the pits to get a new front wing for the final lap of the race, we come round the final corner and we take our best result of the season so far, P5, 10 points for the team. Absolutely massive. After lap 1 it looked like we were going to get no points whatsoever.
That's it then for another fantastic Grand Prix here in Japan. A brilliant victory that has thoroughly earned the applause from the sellout crowd here today. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
What a huge result for us as a constructor. Our best result to date, P5. The podium is the standard 3 drivers you expect to see on the podium, but I don't even care this time because we have pulled off a masterstroke with the strategy to get into P5, and Yuki Tsunoda scores his first points for the team as well. The first time a teammate of mine has scored points for JJLozzer Racing. Absolutely huge. What a performance that is. And the thing is as well, is that George Russell had just overtaken us in the Drivers' Championship. Well, guess what? Because of what happened on the penultimate lap of the race, he's now dropped back behind us again. We now have 19 points, Yuki has 20, 12th and 13th in the driver's standings, and in the constructor's standings, you know how I said earlier about Alfa Romeo potentially really catching us up? In the constructor's standings, well, look at that. Alfa Romeo may have got points, but suddenly out of nowhere, we're right behind Alpine and have a genuine shot at getting 7th in the Constructors' Championship. This is ridiculous. At the end of this race, we could have been in 9th, and now we have a genuine chance of being in 7th come the end of the season. This race has just turned the whole season on its head for us. And there is still loads to be done in admin, as we have a durability department event, a scheduling conflict. 2 different departments have been booked for a component testing in the simulator today with Yuki Tsunoda. So unfortunately we have to upset one of the departments, and I chose the chassis in the end, so they will get a 10% downgrade on morale, but it's absolutely fine because we then go and do the chassis equipment upgrade, which gives them 10% boost, so that cancels that out completely. We fill up the week with activities, or the couple of weeks should we say, with a few activities, and now we have to renew our sponsors as well, which we go ahead and do nice and quickly because they give us plenty of money for very little tasks. We also go and upgrade the fabrication on the durability department, which means that now in every department we can make 2 upgrades at once. Finally, you know, it's been the whole time we've been flipping doing just 1 upgrade at once in every department other than chassis, and now we've got 2,700 R&D points to play with as well. So we do a major tertiary wing flaps upgrade on the aero side of things. We also go for the redesigned brake ducts as well, as we have it on a bit of a discount. Always nice. We need to get that aero up and up and up. We then head over to the engine side to do a major ERS upgrade, the magnetic compound, which we had a 58% discount on, which is lovely. Unfortunately, we do have a failure though, and that is with the tyre blankets, but no bother whatsoever. We will go ahead and purchase that upgrade once again. We then add the last piece of the puzzle to the personnel department and upgrade the analysis suite so that everything in that department is now at spec 1, and we now have a personnel department event. Tsunoda feels they've been pushed especially hard recently, and I've requested some personal time to give them a chance to recharge. Thoughts? Sorry Yuki, but I want as much awareness, or do I want to? No, I actually decline, sorry. I decline, sorry Yuki, I do not want you to stop. You have just been outperforming yourself in that last race, so go ahead and get that upgrade on that racecraft so you can get into less crashes. But that is going to be it for this episode of the F1 2021 My Team series. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button down below. I mean, P5 in this car, surely that does deserve a like. Look at Yuki Tsunoda as well now, 89 racecraft. You absolutely love to see it. But yeah, of course, the next race we are in USA, and of course, the next race as well, we're going to be having the performance update coming for that race. I'm editing this on the day that the performance update came out. This was recorded beforehand, so that might change things around in the pecking order as well, at least on paper. We'll wait and see, shall we? But anyway, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you like what you see and you want to see more, and if you don't want to miss a video, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, and you will get a notification whenever I upload. But until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Peace.